Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. I was very hesitant to make this video because if you don't know, I literally had 63 5-star reads in 2024. Okay, 63 5-star reads. I mean, that tells me one or two things. One, maybe I'm overly generous with my reads, or two, maybe I just read a lot of really great books. So I'm going with two. I'm going with the latter. So with that being said, sitting here and talking to you guys about literally 63 books would probably drain my soul, okay? Not to mention that that would probably be like a 3-hour video. So in front of me, I will be talking about my top 10 best books of 2024. Even though I did have 63 5-star reads last year, if you really want to know what books I rated 5 stars, I'm going to list all the books down below. But for today, and for the sake of this video, I'm just going to be talking about my top 10 God tier, personality, Roman Empire, the books that I just devoured, loved, still think about in my head, the books that I want to be buried with. Before we get into the video, if you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. That way you're all caught up and you never miss another one of my videos. With this group of 10 books, I didn't really rate from best, given they're all 5 stars, from best to worst. I just organized them as far as how I read them. In order, basically. Let's talk about the first book, Reckless-Elsie Silver. This is book 4, I believe, of the Chestnut Spring series. And my gosh, I loved this book so much. I loved it because of the couple, because of how messy their relationship is, because of how freaking sexy the main male character Theo is. I just feel like Theo and Winter make such a great couple because she is no bullshit. She's very rude. She is considered an ice queen in this story, and Theo is a little younger than her, and he's willing to take her shit. He's willing to take her shit and give it back to her because he knows deep down inside, even though she's presumed to be this ice queen, this witch of a person, knows that she's been hurt, and he knows that she deserves the world and more. And the things that he does for her and the sexual tension that this couple has is like no other I've read so far. I freaking love them. They are top tier, one of the best couples I've read. I don't want to say much, but obviously given the title, you know that there might be a surprise pregnancy in here. And the way that Elsie Silver did this was just exceptionally fantastic, if I'm making any sense. This, out of the entire series so far, is my favorite book, okay? I want to die, be buried with this couple. Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. Now, this is the first book in the Jack the Ripper series. There are 4 books in the series. I've read 2 so far, and the reason why I chose this one to be in this list is because this book, specifically, was what introduced me to Kerri Maniscalco's writing. I mean, I absolutely love the way that she writes, the way that she kind of makes an ordinary book seem like it's going to head towards fantasy, because you might think that there is some kind of fantastical elements in her books. It's just amazing. She could be writing the most mundane scenes within the book, within the characters. Her writing is so interesting and so encapturing that you can't help but to keep reading. And this was the perfect introduction to how she writes her characters, how she writes her world, how she kind of manipulates you into thinking, well, maybe there is a fantastical element in here. Maybe there is a monster in here. Maybe Jack the Ripper is real. So that's why I really enjoyed this. First time ever reading any of her work, and I absolutely fell in love with it from page 1. She also tends to write a little bit gory, just interesting to me. I devour all her books. Every time I read one of her books, I am literally pulled into the world just like that. This video is not really going the way I want it to go. Fuck. Let's be raw, okay? I just realized that even though I do have 10 books in front of me to talk to you guys about, I forgot to add one of these books in there. And I cannot. I am doing the author a disservice if I don't include one of her books in here. So instead of there being 10 books, there's 11 books in front of me, okay? Just, math is not my strong suit. Just go with it. That being said, the next book I want to talk about is Norah Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monningham. Do you see this book right here? Do you see how short and sweet it is? It is jam-packed with all the different emotions that you can ever feel about the storyline, about a character, about what the situation is, about everything. Just because her books are cute, funsy covers and just bright and they look short and sweet, she throws in here a gut punch of emotions, of flaws, of situations, of like raw, realistic situations that a normal person or a normal couple would go through. And she makes you feel for these fictional characters and what they're going through. And this is why I love Annabelle Monningham. This is the first book that I read from her. After reading this book, within a month, I read all her other books, okay? I just love the way that she writes. Her writing is so good that like, I just don't know how to explain it. If you haven't read any of her books, I suggest you do. You are doing yourself a disservice to this world because you have not experienced one of her books. All of her books are short. They're jam-packed with so much emotion and so much heart. You can feel it in every single page. This one we're following a screenwriter and famous celebrity actor. What I love about this one is that she is a single mom of 2 kids. You know, she recently is going through a divorce. She's trying to pick up her life where her husband has left it, and she is not looking for a heartbreak. She's not looking for love, despite the fact that her and her kids have been recently dumped by her husband out of nowhere. In comes Leo, this hot celebrity of a man living in her little cottage that she has next to her house because one of her screenplays is going to be adapted into a romance movie. And so the story goes from there. The story shows you how to pick up your life and the pieces after your world has been turned upside down, how to be a single mother of 2 and try to deal with the fact that your kid's father is no longer in the picture, the emotions that that alone has, how much you care about her kids going through this, but then she keeps a smile on her face and just keeps trekking on without even planning it. Love is at her doorstep, literally next door to her. This was such a great emotional book. I love books that have to do with single mothers, the emotions that packs on your soul. You know, like having to do it all by yourself, trying to live day by day, showing your kids that you're stronger than just your other half. Next up, we have When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is the first book in, I don't even remember the name of the series, but this was so good. The reason why I made it onto this list is because sometimes when you read like something so emotional like this, or you read a very long, intricate fantasy, you just need a very nice palate cleanser. And I feel like Sarah Adams does that so well. This is a small town romance between a pie maker who is also very grumpy and a celebrity, a singer. Just the way that this started, the first encounter between these two in the beginning of the book was so freaking funny and so relatable. I loved this book so much. I do plan on continuing the series, but this left such an impact on me because of the emotions I felt. Because I was giddy, I was laughing, it was comical, it was so funny. He's grumpy, she's sunshine, and they just work so perfectly. This wouldn't be a best of 2024 video if I didn't include one of Sarah J Maas's books. And of course, I'm going to include Kingdom of Ash. Why do I love Kingdom of Ash? Because this book is the one book out of the entire series that I literally put down for 3 months because I did not like where the book was going. And then I picked it back up. And the emotions, the emotional roller coaster that she made me go through in this book with all the characters and all the downhill, okay, of the last book in the series was just worth it because of the way that it ended, because of how beautifully it ended. I will admit though, I would have wanted to read more of one of these couples in here that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to give anything away. And I know that this series is complete. I don't think she plans on writing anything else from this series, but it's a bummer because I grew attached to this specific couple and I wish they would have had a little more time together, or I wish I would have read like an epilogue of how they're doing now, you know, because their relationship was so interesting to me that I just wanted more. But needless to say, this book, out of all of them, is the one that literally got and deserved all my emotions. Everything and anything that could happen in a fantasy happened in this book, and that is why this is my favorite book out of the entire series. Don't get me wrong, all of her books in this series got a 5-star, except for one. This one though, this is the one that will always live rent-free in my mind forever. The Dagger and the Flame by Catherine Doyle. Now, I love myself a good enemies to lovers. Between two rival gang members, we have the Cloaks and the Daggers. The Cloaks are kind of essentially known as people that are thieves in order to get by and in order to have this kind of underground empire. They steal from the rich. Then we have the Daggers. The Daggers are basically assassins. Then what happens one day when the main male character, Ransom, is told that he needs to basically kill Seraphine, our main female character. This is the kind of book, it's a YA romantasy, okay, enemies to lovers. This is the kind of book that has one of my favorite tropes in it, and that is, I was sent to kill you, but I fell in love with you instead. I'm sorry I punched the book, okay? I'm sorry. But that right there, the banter, the enemies to loverness of this book, the way that they hate each other, the way that it's forbidden because they're not supposed to be in love with each other. He is sent on a mission to kill her. Otherwise, he himself would get himself killed. And it's just beautiful. It's beautiful, okay? This is another reason why I absolutely love romance fantasies that are specifically YA, because YA does not rely on the spice in the book like adult fantasy does. YA relies on the pining, the yearning, the angst, the tension. And if you write that very well, like Catherine Doyle did, you don't need spice. You don't need spice because everything else that you're wanting from the couple is there. And it's so delicious. It's so good. And it's such a tease, but it's a great, great experience. Just had to make it to my list. Of course, we have Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. You know, I feel so bad that this book has a lot of hate. There's a lot of people that just don't get how goofy and cheesy and corny it is. I'm not one of those people though. I freaking love this book, okay? This book is so damn funny. Is it written well? No. I'm not here to like freaking read like a work of literature. I'm here to have a good damn time, and this book delivered. This book delivered. This is basically what it is. This is a, I don't even want to call it a romantasy because it's not. It's kind of a fantasy. It's kind of like a cozy fantasy with a tiny hint of romance in it about an assistant and her grumpy villainous boss. And that's basically what it is. I love the characters in here. I love that the main female character is socially awkward. She doesn't really understand dry humor. She's a very literal person and doesn't get those side dry humorous jokes that the villain would kind of throw at her sometimes. And the villain himself is this dark and brooding, handsome of a man, but deep inside he has a really great heart, but he doesn't want to share it because he's supposed to be the villain of the book, you know? And then we have my favorite character of all time, which is little Mr. Prince Kinsley right here, this little tiny frog who has been captured by the villain and has been held hostage, turned into a frog. But the fact that he's held hostage doesn't stop the villain from put his own little custom-made spot next to his carriage with a little roof and everything so he doesn't get too hot. He caters to this little frog character, even though he's supposed to hate him. And in the meantime, we have the banter that Kinsley gives back to the villain with one-word signs that he holds up every now and then. It's just so hilarious. I freaking love this book. The two characters meet because Evie is walking one day. She had a very bad experience at her last job, and she just is walking through the woods. At the same time, our dark and brooding villain is running away from knights. They encounter each other and Evie ends up saving his life, and he propositions her to be his assistant. And it's just so freaking funny. It's such a good time. It's comical. It's just so good, you guys. I loved every second of this. Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. We all know that this book had to make it in this list. Why? Because of how fucked up it is. Because of the fact that this was my very first dark romance. Instead of me like reading something more, you know, easy, I decided to jump into the OG. Haunting Adeline. I loved both books, and my favorite probably would have been the second book, but this one is on my list in this video because this is my very first introduction to dark romance, and it did not disappoint. We are following Adeline and Zane. Mr. Zane is part of an umbrella corporation where he actually, you know, gets rid of and wipes out those people that are part of human trafficking, specifically women and children. Is he a very dark character? Yes. Is he a psychopath? Yes, but he's a hot one. One day, he's just walking, he decides to go into a bookstore, and there he sees Adeline for the very first time. And he becomes extremely obsessed with her. Like, stalkerish. I'm talking this man waits out her window and just stalks her. I'm talking there could be a lot of triggers on how he forced himself into her life. Even though he is such a villain and such a very dark character, he has good intentions and you have to love him for it. So this couple, Roman Empire. You might not get it, some people don't get it, but I loved it. I loved all of the emotions I got out of reading this book. I loved how you think that there is no justice for how these characters have been treated, but yet there is a light at the end of the tunnel, okay? So this, of course, is gonna make it onto this list. Again, my very first dark romance, and it was freaking fantastic. Then we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Is this a surprise? No, I talk about this damn book. At least every 5 videos I talk about this damn book. This is my all-time favorite book of all time. It is in this list for a reason. Powerless. Again, enemies to lovers, YA romantasy, forbidden love, freaking angst to the max, tension, banter, no spice needed. Shall I say more? And if you have not read this, the audiobook version of it, the person that narrates the main male character Kai's voice in this book, freaking deliciously gold. You will melt. He could read the most shittiest book ever, but because his voice is so seductive and so beautiful, it gives you that much better of an experience when you're reading this book, okay? And I forgot to mention, the person that narrates Zaid in this book is the king himself, Teddy Hamilton. And if you have not listened to Teddy Hamilton's voice, what the hell are you doing? I'm just saying, I was not an audiobook girly, and I refuse to read my books without audio now. Just saying, some of these people that narrate these books are so damn talented. Same with this one. Chase Brown. Chase Brown. He cannot do any wrong. Anyways, if you haven't read Powerless, which I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, drop everything you're doing and read this book. You will not be disappointed. We have the first book in the Shady Hollow series, and that is Shady Hollow by Janu Black. I had to include this in here because this is a cozy murder mystery series, and it's so freaking good. And it's about animals who live in this cozy little quaint town. The animals are more realistic in a sense of, like, even though they're animals and they talk, they act like humans. There's no magic, there's no fantasy. The only fantasy element in these books is the fact that the animals are living like humans and they're talking and they're driving and they're doing human being things. But the way that the author writes these characters, you can't help but love these characters in this world so much. And in here we're following Vera Vixen, which happens to be the fox. She is an investigative reporter. In every book, she's solving a different murder mystery. You just follow this character, the side characters included in these stories. You just can't help but to fall in love with every single one of them. There is a sheriff who happens to be a bear. There is a moose who happens to own a coffee shop, and it's so freaking cute. There is a raven, here's the map, but there is a raven who happens to own a bookstore by the name of Nevermore Books. And the moose who owns the coffee shop, the name of the coffee shop is Joe's Mug, and it's just so cozy and quaint and just everything, okay? This is a perfect example of an author who will write just the day-to-day mundane things that these characters do as regular people, aside from the fact that they're animals. She writes them so well that you can't help but to get attached to every single one of these characters and this cute little quaint town that they live in the middle of the forest. Every book has its own mystery, but we're still following the same characters, especially the reporter Fox, who is trying to solve each mystery alongside with the sheriff. And it's just perfect fall read. And every book takes place in a different season of the year, and it's perfect, okay? It's perfect. The last book in this list would have to be Katharina Marrow's The Broken Bowels. This is part of the Windsor series. There are 6 books in the series. This is a set of billionaire contemporary romances. Can I just say that Katharina Marrow slays at writing yearning and pining and sexual tension and fuck. Can she write a billionaire man? This, I think, is book 4 of the series. I think this is book 4. This one follows Celeste and Sane, and this is a childhood friends to lovers to enemies to lovers. And it's fucking perfect. Not only are we using Teddy Hamilton's voice to narrate Zane's perspective in this book, but just how flawed these characters are. How perfectly imperfect this relationship is. How emotional their backstory is just pure fucking perfection. Perfection. Now, okay, book 1 in the series, do not judge the rest of the books based on your experience with book 1, because book 1 kind of sucked compared to everything else in this series. Book 1, and I think there's another book that I really hated that I gave a 2-star. But this one, and most of the books in this series anyways, are just god tier. I don't give a shit. I don't care what the characters are doing. There is so much sexual tension packed in every single book. And you know what I love about billionaire romances is that the men are so exaggeratingly obsessed with their women. They will go above and beyond. I'm talking, like, off the top of my head, not in this book, but I'm talking they own a restaurant. Every single meal and every single piece of food in that restaurant is based off of what she loves to eat. They build her a custom library in their home with a fireplace, even though she hates him, because he knows one day he'll have her. You only get to see that kind of stuff in books, okay? In reality, you don't. Only fictional men like this you get to read about in books, because reality is not like that. This is the book that left the impression of my heart. This book took everything out of me. I just wanted the characters to be together. I just wanted them to stop being so stubborn and forget about the past. And I just wanted them to love each other. And I wanted their relationship to happen so badly that when it did, it was just a breath of fresh air. So yes, this is my favorite book out of the entire series. All her books in that series are pretty good, but this one, with the exception of book 1 and book 3, I think. But this one, you guys, this one, the best. The best. Okay, so there you have it. Those are my 11 books that made it to the best books that I've read in 2024. Now, I know I said 10, but I couldn't help it. I had 11. Cut me some slack. I had 63. You're welcome. This was not a 5-hour video. So again, I will have the other 5-star reads listed down below so you guys can just take a sneak peek of them. Maybe there'll be some books that you'll add onto your list this year, but just, okay, if you get anything out of this video, pick up one of these books. Pick them up because they will not disappoint you. So that's it. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will catch you on my next one. Bye!